The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
John Mousinho is having fun pretending that Millie Ali isn't up to scratch in the hope that LUTON decide to sell him. He says, with his tongue firmly in his cheek,
"He's been useless. I don't think there's going to be any value in him this summer. I think Luton should get rid of him and do it really quickly. Seriously, Mill has been very, very good for us. I do think there's a lot of improvement we can get in his game though, with the Wrexham game a really good example of that. Some concentration down that left-hand side and a little bit of final product, that's whether it's crosses or cutting in onto his right foot and finishes. Goals and assists are the next step for him. So I think there's still plenty of polishing we still need to do with that player, but I think he's come in and made a really big impact. You can see with the team selection and the fact that he's been playing 90 minutes in pretty much every game. Signing Ali permanently is obviously out of our hands, because he's going to be a Luton player again in the summer. From my perspective, if I can speak to Millie in the summer and persuade him to maybe extend his stay here, I think everyone could see that as being beneficial."
It's a tricky one, isn't it, for John Mousinho? He doesn't want the hype to go far and wide, as it did with Abu Kamara. His club wanted Kamara back, and they were able to sell him for between 3 and 5 million, whereas he was probably only worth 3/4 or 1 million when he came to us. We put that much improvement into the lad. And if we're going to do the same with Mill, as we now know, John Mousinho, a big fan of nicknames, calls Ali Mill, is showing tremendous potential. And by the end of the season, he could be as highly valued as Abu Kamara, couldn't he? In which case, obviously, Luton are going to be saying everywhere, you can have him, anybody who wants him, but he's going to be 3, he's going to be 4, he's going to be 5 million, do I hear 6? So John Mousinho wants to praise his loanee, to help get the best out of him, but at the same time, he doesn't want Luton to run away with the idea that Pompey have trebled the value of a player who just wasn't working when he was playing for them.
Here's a preview of Pompey v Hull from Sportmole.
After playing 3 consecutive games on the road, Portsmouth are set to return to Fratton Park for the first time since losing 1-0 to Sheffield United on February 14th. They enjoyed 2 successful trips to the capital, recording 3-1 victories over Charlton Athletic and Millwall to claim back-to-back away league wins for the first time this season. However, they were unable to make it 3 successive away wins in Tuesday's narrow 2-1 defeat against Wrexham at the Racecourse Ground. They're now preparing for a meeting with promotion hopefuls Hull, a team they have not beaten since recording a 2-0 away victory in December 2020. They should at least fancy their chances of negating the threat of the league's 3rd highest scorers, given the fact they have not conceded more than 1 goal in any of their previous 10 championship home games. Hull are currently 6 points adrift of second-placed Middlesbrough, with a game in hand after winning 17, drawing 6 and losing 10 of their 33 league matches this season. The Tigers went 3 championship games without a win before they returned to winning ways in Tuesday's home clash with Derby County. With the score level at 2 goals apiece, John Egan and Lewis Kumas scored in the final 15 minutes to fire Serge Kirovic's side to a 4-2 victory. While they may have ended a 4-game winless home run in midweek, the Tigers will be looking forward to heading on their travels for Saturday's contest, having won 6 of their previous 7 road trips since losing 3-2 to Queen's Park Rangers in November. In fact, Hull have won each of their last 4 away matches, keeping clean sheets in 3 of those victories. Another win on Saturday would see them complete a league double over Pompey after prevailing by a 3-2 scoreline in November's reverse fixture. Portsmouth are having to contend with a lengthy injury list that includes Keshi Anderson, Josh Murphy, Florian Bianchini, Franco Ume and Thomas Waddingham. They are also without the defensive quartet of Connor Shaughnessy, Hayden Matthews, Josh Knight and Keshi Anderson, while the midfield duo of Mark Koznovsky and Andre Dezel are out with knee and ankle injuries respectively. John Swift is the latest injury concern after he was forced off in the first half against Wrexham due to a hamstring issue. Hull are unable to call upon Bristol City loanee Yu Hirakawa, who will miss the rest of the season with an ankle injury. Portsmouth possible starting lineup: Schmid, Devlin, Poole, Ogilvie, Swanson, Pack Adams, Caballero, Segicic, Ali, and Bishop.
OK, so Sport Mole, their take is that Swift won't recover in time for the Hull game, and 3 days to recover from a niggling hamstring. That's possibly pushing it. But what they say is that Caballero will keep his place and that Adrian Zegacic will move into the number 10 role, which I think he has said all along is his preferred position. So that bodes well. But we have to return to the Caballero question. If Caballero wasn't pressing anywhere near well enough, along with a couple or maybe more other Pompey players against Wrexham, are we going to have time to teach him how to press better before the Hull game? Or is pressing less important in a home game than it is in an away game where you've got your backs to the wall and you'd be very happy to take a goalless draw? We'll see. It'll be 11:30 on Saturday morning. Remember, it's a 12:30 kickoff. That we'll get the team sheet and we'll find out whether Caballero holds on to his place, even though he's still got a bit of learning to do when it comes to pressing the ball. Gus Caballero was subbed off during the Wrexham game at half-time because he wasn't getting the press right. John Mousinho was at pains to point out that other players weren't quite getting the press right, but Caballero was standout in that regard. And Pompey are good at the press, hot off the press, different type of press. Here's a news story which illustrates, or indeed proves, that fact.
The latest data published by the CIES Football Observatory ranks teams from 56 leagues around the world according to the level of pressure exerted on opponents. The numbers are calculated using 1. How far up the pitch press is applied. 2. The speed of interrupting opponent possessions. 3. How many passes the opposition are limited to making. And 4. Committing fouls in the final third when not in possession. Pompey are ranked a respectable 21st across all 4 divisions of English football, an average score in the first 3 categories, being let down by a significantly poor statistic in the final category, the number of times they commit fouls against the opposition in the opposition's final third. Almost all the English sides in the world top 50 consists of the Premier League's Big Six, with the rest being made up by teams in the Championship. Ipswich top the English game, especially as they commit almost a third more fouls in the opposition final third than the average.
So what is the press? And why should a South American forward-minded right winger play the press? Here's David Moyes starting off a training session with his academy in which he's preparing to teach them about the press and how it's important that everybody on the pitch knows how to play the press.
Pressing, if you're pressing, which we're going to do from here, will always come from the front. So it means the forward players to start the pressing. They need to be the ones who would be the first ones to go to the ball, and then it would need the midfield players to follow in, the defenders as well. So all the areas of the team need to be ready to work on it. But I hope that we see it going through. But in the first part, initially, it's very little to do with tactical. It's more to do with just making sure that they're aware of the jobs.
The press begins when their goalkeeper passes the ball short to a colleague, a defender. Your nearest player is number 1, and he charges at the defender who's just received the ball. The midfielders behind him back him up by closing down all the players who could receive a short ball from the defender who is being attacked. The harassment continues across the park because the ball is more likely to go back to the goalkeeper and then a short pass in the opposite direction. It requires aggression. It requires selflessness because the player who charges down the defender is almost certainly not going to get the ball himself. He's got to hope that the midfield get the ball and they give it to him and he has a chance to score. That is the basis of the press. And it can happen everywhere on the pitch, but it's easiest to understand and illustrate if, as David Moyes does, you begin with the goalkeeper playing the ball short to one of his colleagues. So we have to remember that Pompey are good at the press, but could be even better. They have to improve in one of the 4 categories, which is the number of fouls that they commit inside the opponent's last third of the pitch. And if Caballero has to learn how to do things such as that, well, welcome to English football.